Hi everyone, welcome to our today's podcast. We are diving into a topic that's critical for every modern organization who does email security and threat protection. Joining me is Mithun, a seasoned expert from Microsoft with nearly 15 years of experience in Microsoft Mailflow infrastructure. Mithun has been at the forefront of designing and optimizing secure email systems that protect millions of users globally. In this session, we'll explore how Microsoft Defender and Exchange Online Protection work together to empower organizations to stay ahead of evolving threats from phishing and spoofing, and also to advance malware and business email compromises. Mithun will help us in understanding real world scenarios, and he'll also be sharing insightfuls and discuss how enterprise can leverage Microsoft security stack to build a resilient and email ecosystem. With that, I will let welcome Mithun to podcast. And Mithun, over to you for the session.
Right. Thank you, Ram, Gokul, and Priya for having me in this podcast. And it is interesting to collaborate with you today. And guys, as Ram introduced myself, Mithun, and I am a part of Microsoft pre-release management, who primarily works on all the new releases that is associated with Microsoft Defender, and especially Microsoft Defender for Office 365. And with that, today we have a brief introduction session to Microsoft Defender for Office 365, which primarily helps beginners and people who are interested to learn how to jump into Microsoft Defender for Office and to know how exactly it protects and gives email security as well as the collaboration security for the tools such as Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive. And in this session, we primarily focus on email security. So let's start the session. Right. The agenda for today, we are going to take a look at what is Exchange Online Protection, which is shortly called as EOP, and Microsoft Defender for Office 365, which is MDO, and how exactly they both differs, and what are all the various levels of protection that is offered by EOP, and what extra we have in MDO, which is not available in EOP. We are going to take a look in depth. And we are also going to say why email and collaboration security is much important in this fast evolving world. And we can also see how exactly the product is designed, and what is the main difference between EOP license versus MDO P1, that is the plan 1, versus MDO plan 2 license as well. And also behind that, we will also take a look at five pillars that has been a part of Microsoft Defender for Office 365 design, which is nothing but prevention, detection, investigation, and response, as well as the user awareness training. So at the end, let me give a quick heads up about the security for artificial intelligence, such as M365 Copilot chats that we have been using on our daily life on day-to-day basis. So, the Exchange Online Protection. So, what is Exchange Online Protection? It is nothing but a cloud based filtering service that gives your organization the baseline protection against a list of known malicious attacks like known malwares, known phishing attacks, and known emails. So, it is a signature based detection, meaning the engines will get updated with the latest signatures, and based on that, we would be able to classify the good emails from the known bad emails. And by default, this offers three protections for your organization. One is the anti-malware protection, and anti-spam protection, and anti-phishing protection, which gives you the protection against some of the spoof attacks that happens from outside the organization. That may be your domain that somebody is using to attack yourself from outside, or it could be some external domain as well. So yes, in EOP we have several. We are using several URL block lists with the help of which we would be able to figure out various known malicious attacks, and also we have a list of vast malicious domains, and we will be rejecting the emails from those domains at the edge itself instead of allowing it to come inside the service. And also EOP has that capability to scan all the malicious files and payloads that is coming as a part of your email. So, and we would be able to classify and quarantine them if it is a known malicious attack. So that is pretty much what is available in EOP. And so now let us, before we jump into MDO and advanced technologies that we have as a part of MDO, let us take a quick look about how inbound mail flow and outbound mail flow works, and how exactly the order of filtering works with respect to EOP or MDO. This part applies to both EOP as well as MDO as well. So when somebody from internet, when it comes to inbound mail flow, if somebody from internet sends an email, so they will query the public DNS and they will find the MX record that is associated with your domain. And using the MX record, which resolved to a IP address that belongs to you, that belongs to your tenant, the email will be received by your organization, and your EOP front end transport servers receives those emails. As soon as the email is being received, as you can see in the diagram, the first filtering is the edge level filtering, which is also called as a connection filtering. So what it does is it blocks email comes from bad networks, bad IPs, and malicious networks at the edge level, instead of, so that it will not enter into the hub level, so it will be rejected in the edge. And also EOP offers you a connection filter policy, using which you can customize the allowed IP and block IP list as well. If you wanted to block some IP, you can block it. If you want to allow some IP, you can allow it with the help of that policy. So once the connection filtering is done, the next level of filtering is anti-malware filtering, which will happen in the hub servers. So the anti-malware engines, Microsoft has own anti-malware engines, with the help of which uh, it will block email comes from some of the many of the known malicious files or attachments. So as a part of anti-malware, we will be also providing a list of policies where you can customize and you can block a list of known malicious files, or else the files that you don't want to be entered into your organization. So that customization is also available, so that the anti-malware part will be taken care. And once that is done, then there comes the mail flow rules. So you'd be heard about the transport rules, which is also called as the mail flow rules. So with the help of which you can do n number of things, right? So when email comes, if you wanted to redirect certain emails to quarantine based upon certain conditions, you can do it. And also if you wanted to redirect certain emails to a different organization or a different service for some purpose, like to stamp a signature or to do some extra scanning, you could make use of transport rules. And also you could utilize the same transport rule to whitelist and block certain emails based upon sending source, based upon the header information, like authentication results or from address, return path address, and all those stuff. So all this can be done in the mail flow rules. And once mail flow rule scanning is done, the mail will enter into the next section, which is called um, content filtering, which is also called as a spam filtering, where we will be doing deep scanning on the email body content, as well as we open the envelope and we will scan the whole body content, and we will scan the entire URL which is present in the particular email, alongside with the attachment if it is a part of it. And once content filtering is done, and the email will be either delivered to your mailbox, or it could be either quarantined or junked, depending upon the policies that you configured in your organization. And once the email is being delivered to the recipient mailbox, then you should be able to access it. And after being delivered, yes, even in EOP, you have option to flag a particular email as a false positive and false negative as well. So what is false positive? If in case after all this filtering, if the malicious email still gets delivered to your mailbox, that is what we call as a false negative. Similarly, if our EOP engines mark a particular legitimate email as a spam or malware by mistake, those things were called as false positives. So you will have a leverage to um, submit this email. In case if there is any false detection happen, you can use the native reporting add-in that is available as a part of your Outlook line and OVA, and report them to Microsoft for further analysis. So this is pretty much that is covered within EOP. So now let us move on to MDO. So what is MDO? How does it differs from EOP? So MDO is nothing but Microsoft Defender for O365, which has all the capabilities that is provided by EOP, but it includes few additional capabilities. In a nutshell, EOP will help you to protect against list of known malicious attacks, but there is a n number of unknown attacks, or zero-day virus, or zero-day spam, or zero-day fish that is not known to our EOP engines. So that is when we need MDO. It has a safe attachment policies and safe link policies, in addition to whatever the policies that we have seen in the previous slide. So what does safe attachment policy do? The safe attachment policy will do the attachment scanning again by sending that attachment to a sandbox environment. So sandbox environment is nothing but a protected environment in which we will execute each and every file, and we will detonate the file to see if that file is still having any malicious content. Similarly, the safe link policies will send the URL to the same kind of detonation environment, and we will detonate that URL to see, if URL is pointing to some, is it redirected? If it is redirected, after redirection, is it pointing to some file? If it is pointing to some file, is it malicious or not? So we will thoroughly check all this. We will execute that URL just like how human is executing in our environment. Will execute the same kind of execution in a protected environment, and it will try to figure out each and everything. It will check URL, and it will check the file, and it will open the file. It will see how exactly the file is branded. In case inside the file is, are they impersonating some organization? Sometimes what happen, you would receive an email stating that it is Microsoft 365 and with the link to reset the password, but it is a malicious link. So just because it has a Microsoft 365 logo, it doesn't mean that it is a good file, right? So this detonation will check all these things with respect to what is available in the file, and what is available in the URL, and where the URL is linked to, and it will scan all these things, and based on that, it will give an updated verdict to the system, so that whichever has escaped from EOP service, EOP engines, those will be classified as malicious, malware, or high confidence phish when this detonation happens. So this is the extra protection that MDO provides. But MDO doesn't stop here. In addition to offering this kind of protection, it also have a lot of detection technologies as well. Because if in case of something escaped, right, we need to alert the rest of the system, stating that something has happened, something has delivered to user, and it become malicious. So it has that capabilities. We have a lot of alerts available as a part of MDO service, with the help of which we would be able to detect something that escapes the protection. And in MDO, we have two forms of licenses. One is MDO P1 and as well as MDO P2, which is nothing but MDO Plan 1 as well as MDO Plan 2. In MDO Plan 1, no, as we move up the ladder, as we move from left to right, as you can see in the screen, the protection level increase. If you look at the EOP, it has basic protection, but if you move to MDO Plan 1, it has a EOP basic protection plus safe attachment and safe link protection. And then if you move again to MDOP2, it has a high level investigation and response capabilities. So investigation and response capabilities are equally important, because if in case if you have detected something that has escaped from protection, we need to, as an admin, we need to either automate the investigation, or we need to do a manual investigation in such a way we need to thoroughly come to a conclusion. And once we come to a conclusion, either we can mark them as a false positive and false negative, and we need to respond to the threat. That is when the respond part will comes into picture, right? Let us move to the next slide, and before that, I just wanted to take a pause here to see if we have any questions.
Uh, yes, Mithun. So, yeah, it was quite informative where you differentiated the Exchange Online Protection and Defender for Office 365. It was very clean presentation where we can understand in deep. So, before we proceed further, prior to this podcast, we had few questions. So, I would like to post few of them. So in Defender, right, we have a lot of policies, as you told. Like, what are the best policies that needs to be enabled in an environment by default, or what are the uh, best level policies which you would suggest?
Yeah. So by default, both in Exchange Online Protection and MDO, we have default policies, right? That default policies are enabled by default, and it is applies to all the users in the organization. So, for example, when your organization is purchasing or moving to O365, so the by default protection will be given by the default spam filter policies, default anti-malware policies, default anti-phishing policies, as well as the built-in policies for safe attachment and safe links. That will provide the default protection. But the recommendation is, based upon your organization, you need to customize the policies. Not always the default policies will offer you the complete protection customization that your organization needs. So in those scenarios, we have bunch of policies, like we have a preset security policies, custom policies, on the top of the default and built-in policies. So what is preset security policies? So the settings in the preset security policies is maintained by Microsoft. So there is a two types. There is a strict preset security policies and standard preset security policies. So we need to go through the list of settings that is enabled in the preset, strict preset and standard preset security policies, and post analyzing, if you feel that Microsoft recommended settings is okay for certain set of users, you may need to segregate the users, and you may need to go with either strict security policies for certain set of important users and like a CEOs, and and you can go with the standard settings for some of the users who might be security operators who may not have that much strict policies. And if in case if you're not okay with the settings that is configured in preset security policies, you do have option for custom policies where you can do anything. So you can create a custom policy and you can assign the custom policies to the set of users you want, and you can do some customization. Like for some users you want spam email to be in junk folder. For some users you want even spam email to be in quarantine, right? So you can change all those settings, and based on that you can customize and you can manage your end users.
Yeah.
So that is pretty much. But again, by default, it is enabled. But again, you can customize, is what I'm saying. And
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, and one other thing is when multiple policies are acting together, there is a precedence. For example, if you're assigned with a strict security policies, even if you're a part of custom policies, that will not take effect because there is an order by which the policies will run. Initially, preset security policies will work, and then custom policies, and then default, and then built-in. That is how the order will work.
So yeah, that was my next question. So
Okay.
basically, like if there are multiple policies, they work together on a specific order. So
Yeah.
it starts from how the policies are aligned. And as you said, it is very important to segregate the users also, right? So which groups needs to have
Exactly.
which policy. So I think we need to have the assessment done before going for a security solution, right? Okay.
Exactly.
So, just to ask you in deep, like, how do you think these policies work together in a normal scenario, or how they bind with each other in an organization?
Yeah. So when you have multiple policies, right? There are two. I should answer this in two ways. Okay. So what happens when multiple policies applied? That could be one question that I would take. And second question is when multiple protection, when multiple verdicts act on an email, how exactly we take a precedence, right?
Yeah,
To answer
that's
your first question, right? When multiple policies are scoped for particular users, so it will follow this order. Initially, it will run execute preset strict preset security policies. If you are a part of it, that will execute. That is the end. None
yeah,
of the remaining policies will get executed. But in case if you are not a part of preset security policies, but you are a part of custom policies, then custom policies will execute it for you with all the settings. But you will not go behind it, like you will not be executed again by the default policies. So that is how it works. But next, when you have three or four custom policies, for example, under each of the section, right, under custom policies, you can create a number of custom policies. If you create many custom policies, then it will follow the priority order. So the zero will execute it first, and if you are a part of policy which is having a priority zero, that will be executed. Even if you are a part of policy with a priority five, that will be ignored. That is another way within
okay,
each segments. And to answer your second question, let us assume a particular email lands in, and that particular email got scanned by multiple engines as we discussed, and it got multiple verdict. It is a
yeah,
spoof, it is a spam, and it is a fish, right?
yeah,
So three verdicts has been given to a single message. So in those scenarios, we do have an list of order. I would share an article which is ak.ms/mdo order. If you could open that ak.ms/mdo order, we will describe this in a tabular column with an order of the verdicts. If malware exists, ignore everything. It should follow the malware action. If in case if
okay,
the email is a high confidence spam as well as spoof, ignore spoof. It should follow high confidence spam action. So
oh,
likewise, we have segregated it, and we will give the direction to quarantine, a direction to junk based upon the high filtering verdict, as we mentioned in the ak.ms/md order article. So that is how
okay.
we will execute the policies.
That's very well explained, Mithun. We can now understand the clarity because, as you tell, it's even though all the emails are coming through the same pipeline, how it gets segregated is what we these defenders all help us, right? So yeah, thank you so much. These two are the main questions we had. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Priya. So
So,
let us move
Mithun,
on to the
before
next
you move
slide.
on,
Yeah.
a quick question. So, before I ask the question, first of all, thank you for being part of Modern Minds. So, what I want to ask here is, so you mentioned about multiple filtering in EOP and as well as on the Microsoft Defender side. So, uh, could you please from an admin standpoint, I would like to understand if there is any false positive scenario where a legitimate email has been blocked by MDO. As an admin, what are the options that we have got to get this fixed?
Yeah. So if an email is being marked as a false positive, right? That was the question. So false positive in the sense, so it should have been quarantined or it should have been junked depending upon your threat policy settings. So if that is the case, as an admin, you can use some of the investigation tools such as Threat Explorer, and as an admin, you have an access to quarantine, so that you can go there and you can review the email as an administrator. And if you feel it is a real false positive based upon your initial analysis, you could submit it to Microsoft for further analysis, so that Microsoft engine will rescan the entire filtering stack. It will check each and every entity that is a part of email. That includes the email structure, the entities like URLs and files that has been a part of that email. And based on that, we will also check that email against some of the rules that you may have in the tenant. Sometimes, in what happen, you could have a system may not have marked the email as a false positive. Instead, you have some custom rule that could have sent email to the quarantine. It will give a clear clarity about all those stuffs. And if in case if in the tenant wide, if everything is clear, this email will be further analyzed by our AI ML models. So that is ML grading, that is AI grading. It will grade either as per your thought, or if in case if that is not okay as per what you feel, then it will give back the same verdict as before. But before it gives back, there is a human grader as well, especially when admin submitted email for analysis. Apart from AI graders, there should be a set of human graders that will reanalyze those samples that you have submitted, and there is a chance that they may agree to your verdict based upon their analysis. At the end, if they agree with your way of analysis, you will get an updated verdict. If in case if they disagree, then you will get an proper response stating what exactly happened and what is a rescan verdict, etc., so that you can see it as a in the result column when you get back the results. So that is how we exactly analyze the email false positive.
Thank you, Mithun.
The same applies to false negatives as well. You can resubmit it in a different way, and again the same path will be followed and you will get a final result from graders.
Thank you.
Right. Right. So yeah. So before the most important thing is why this email and collaboration security is so important in this fast evolving world. So everybody has been using emails on day-to-day basis, and we are also using collaboration tools such as Teams. Nowadays, everybody is using, in fact, Teams more than email. I would say, right? It would be equally important. So when it comes to collaboration tools, that includes Teams that has been protected by MDO, that the files that you are sharing in SharePoint and OneDrive, all these are completely protected by MDO service. But in this session, we are going to primarily focus on email security. So these are all some of the main stuff. You can see few statistics. So 96% of the phishing attacks arrives via email communication. So that makes sense, why we need an email security, which is at most important. And 3+ billion phishing emails are sent on daily basis. So we need our security to catch all this, to prevent our end users to do their work flawlessly. And 270% increase in the use of collaboration tool like Microsoft Teams in the recent years. So everyone should agree to this. So previously email was the primary mode of communication. Now, in addition to email, now Teams is equally important, and it is necessary for MDO and the protection service to protect links, messages, and files that has been shared in Teams. And there is a 1 to 65% increase in phishing attacks from 2022 to 2023, and especially during the COVID and after COVID. So all this will make you understand why email and collaboration security is equally important and should be protected by MDO service. So moving on to next, this is a quick overview of different licensing, EOP versus MDO Plan 1 versus MDO Plan 2. So when it comes to EOP, as I said, you will get a default anti-malware protection, anti-spam protection, bulk email protection, and anti-phishing protection, and outbound spam filtering as well, along with the connection filtering that we have seen in the previous thing. So, and when email gets quarantined, yeah, by default, you will get a quarantine policies with the help of which you can manage your quarantine. That is available as a part of EOP. And also, if in case if you wanted to block someone, right, some domain, or if you wanted to block some spoof sender, if you wanted to block some files, block URLs, or block IP address, all these are offered in EOP as well, in the as a form of tenant allow block list. If you go to security.microsoft.com, on the left pane, you can see email and security, email and collaboration. And under email and collaboration, you would be able to see all these policies, threat policies and rules together. And when it comes to investigate, as I said, EOP doesn't have much tools for investigation. If you look at the first image, you could see we could see only three options to investigate: audit log search, right? So with the help of audit log, you can understand what has happened in the tenant, right? Nothing beyond it. And you have a message trace. With the help of message trace, you can investigate certain thing up to some level, right? Whether it delivered to junk or whether it delivered to quarantine. And you can also understand what are all the different filtering verdicts or different filters that has acted on particular email, and what are all the different policies that has processed that particular email, not beyond it. And we have some email security reports, with the help of which you can schedule some reports for your weekly or monthly purposes, and you can review them, right? But see, respond. When it comes to respond, we have only two facilities. One is 0 hours auto purge, right? That is a Zap. Zap is nothing but if some mailing stuff has been delivered to your organization mailboxes, this Zap will retroactively scan each and every mailboxes and each and every emails up to 48 hours after delivery, and see if it becomes weaponized, right? In case if it gets weaponized after delivery, this Zap will quarantine them, or if that will delete them depending upon the verdict, like a fish or spam. So that is one way of responding, which is automated in EOP. And the second thing is a tenant allow block list, right? You can respond by creating a manual allow or manual block, or while doing a submission, you can create an allow for a false positive, and you can create a block for false negative. So all this can be done. So these are all the entire set that is available as a part of EOP. And what is extra in P1? So MDO P1 will have whatever we discussed so far in EOP, and in addition, it has a little bit extra prevent and detect capabilities. So when it comes to detect capabilities, as I said, it has a safe attachment protection, which does a sandboxing. It has a safe link protection that does a sandboxing for URLs, which does an URL detonation checks. And it also gives an impersonation protection. The impersonation protection is not available in EOP, right? As well. What is impersonation? Impersonation is something like, for example, Ram has been in communication with me over a time with a mail address called rom@gmail.com, right? And suddenly tomorrow, with a similar display name and similar alias, if somebody else like rom@hotmail.com, if he would have connected with me, then my impersonation capabilities will be able to figure out that with the help of the sender recipient map that it maintains, with the help of which it easily identifies someone with exactly resembling Rom is trying to communicate with me. So it may block it unless we establish a two-way communication. So that is how the impersonation will work. And that protection is available as a part of P1. And when it comes to investigate and respond capabilities, we have a real-time detection and email entity page. So email entity page is the one where you can open a particular email and you could do a complete analysis. You would be able to see the complete envelope of the email, and you would be able to see the authentication results of the email. You would be able to do an in-depth analysis for URLs, files, and it also clusters similar email. If we have any email that is similar to what we have, we should be able to see those similarities, and we will be able to address. So those facilities are available in P2. So P1. So what is extra in P2? So P2 will have in-depth investigation and response capabilities. So when it comes to detect capabilities, it has an attack simulation training, which is not a part of P1. So attack simulation training primarily helps you to educate your users by sending some simulation, and you can educate your users by sending some how-to guides. For example, if end users need to know how to respond to threats, right? And how to respond, how to do false positive, false negative submission themselves. So you could include all those simulation stuff and how to guide stuff with the help of attack simulation training. That is a part of your P2 license. And when it comes to, more importantly, when it comes to investigate and respond capabilities, it has the big one, Threat Explorer, which will, with the help of which you can do lot of investigation and lot of remediation. You could hard delete an email, you could hard delete a calendar if it is malicious, you could do a number of actions. And also using Threat Explorer, you can do a submission, and you could move email to different folders. And on the top of it, we have AIR, which is nothing but automated investigation and response. So not all the time that we need to manually sit behind and do the remediation, right? Investigation and remediation. So if we have MDO P2, it does an automated investigation for you for a malicious file clusters and malicious URL clusters. For example, if somebody reported a particular email with the link as a fish, automatically an alert will be triggered, and that alert will automatically initiate an automated investigation response that will run the playbook, that will do all the investigation itself, and it will provide you the recommendation steps, right? So those capabilities available as a form of AIR. And in addition to that, we have an advanced hunting capabilities. Using advanced hunting queries, you should be, and custom detection rules, you would be able to detect and respond to various threats automatically. If you have custom alert, custom rule detection rule that you have created, you can automate that to do an investigation and take an actions as well. And also, yes, you can, this MTOP2 will allow you to investigate alerts that has been generated and investigate the incident that has been generated for anything that happened uh, beyond whatever the protection that we have. So that is pretty much with respect to EOP comparison with MDO P1 and P2. So these are all the five pillars. I just wanted to move the slide quickly. So this is the five pillars with respect to MDO. One is prevention, detection, investigation, response and remediation, and user awareness training. Right. So now let us take a deep look into prevention capabilities. So when I say protect, we know we have a list of policies. So all those policies have n number of things to do, right? These are all those n number of things which offer multi-layered protection. So the first part is we need to read this from left to right and top to bottom. So as we go down, the protection increases. The first part is edge protection. So we have this number of edge protection, which is network throttling. So network throttling prevents email from the list of known bad networks that we have, and also at times we will throttle and reduce the number of email that comes from some of the networks which has been newly introduced. So that is network throttling. And similarly, the IP throttling is something we know them. We don't really want to know the 100% malicious IPs, right? We would reject email come from those well-known bad IPs at the edge server itself. And we do have domain reputation that is maintained in our service, with the help of which we don't accept email from some of the known malicious domain, and we will reject those email at the edge itself. The next one is in directory-based edge blocking. So when it comes to directory-based edge blocking, so people may try something, right? People from outside the organization will try guessing your email, and they will try to attack you, your organization. For example, if Ram's email address is rom at a.com, somebody will try, like, rom dot something at a.com, which may not be available in your service. So the directory based edge blocking will block those kind of invalid email to the invalid email address, which is not a part of your active directory. So that is a directory based edge blocking. It is again an edge level blocking. And the backscatter detection. So sometimes you would have noticed you may not send an email to anyone, but in turn you receive an NDR, right? For example, some spoofer might have used my email address to send an email to somebody who may not exist, or some server who may not accept email from them, right? But in turn they will reject the email. But when they reject the email, the original user is you. So the original NDR will come back to you, right? So our edge protection has this backscatter detection, which clearly identifies the known, I mean, the valid NDRs from the invalid NDRs, and it will reject those invalid NDRs. So that is another edge protection. And the final one is enhanced filtering for on-prem routing. So this obviously an configuration that is much needed when it comes to the dual route scenario, or dual use scenarios where customers are using multiple filters. Sometimes they might be using something like a Mimecast where MX is pointing to there, and from Mimecast will do the initial filtering, and then it will hand out the email to MDO service. So in those scenarios, we would not be able to find out the original source of the email, right? And the authentication records like an SPF, or we will not be able to know whether this comes from a valid IP. So in those scenarios, it is highly recommended to enable this enhanced filtering for connectors, so that we will be able to look the original source, and based on original source, we will be able to authenticate that particular email to see whether we can allow or not. So that is an additional protection, especially in the dual use scenarios. So moving down, that is a sender intelligence. So our MDO service will have an account compromise detection. So all of you would have noticed sometimes your user get blocked and it moves to restricted entities, right? It could be because of multiple reasons, like the user could have breached the default limit that has been designed for M365 service. That could be one of the reason, or they could be sending a lot of spams, right? So etc. So when somebody suddenly started sending a lot of spam, our algorithms will check various factors such as the change of behavior in the user accounts, and it applies machine learning models and all those stuff, and it identifies whether it is a possible account compromisation. If in case if it feels the account is compromised based upon the threshold that has been defined, that account will get blocked. So that facility will be available as a part of sender intelligence. And second thing is SPF or DMARC and DKM checks. So all this what together called as anti-spoof mechanism, anti-spoof records, with the help of which we would be able to decide whether the inbound email that we received is coming from a valid source. Is it from a valid IP? Is it from a properly signed domain? Whether um, is it from a bulk provider? If it is from a bulk provider, is it properly aligned with SPF or DKM? We would do all those checks, and based on that, DMARC will take in proper action in such a way that the legitimate authenticated email will be allowed, and other email will be junked or rejected depending upon the policy configuration that you have. So, and yeah, as a part of this, we have an intra org spoof and cross domain spoof intelligence. So, one part is with respect to SPF, DKM, DMARC, and AR. That is what we call as explicit email authentication. That happens explicitly based upon the records that sender has. The second part of spoof intelligence is the spoof intelligence insights that we have inside our service. So our service keep on learning the sender's behavior, and it maintains the reputation of the domain, and it does the machine learning algorithm, and based on that, it has own capabilities to decide itself to see if the domain is malicious. For an example, sometimes you may be getting an email from a legitimate domain, but the legitimate domain doesn't have an SPF, DMARC, and DKA, right? It is all none. So our system will not be able to take any decision when sender doesn't have any records. So in those scenarios, for example, we will apply our spoof intelligence that is available as a part of our MDO service, using which we will be able to classify that as a spoof or non-spoof. That is available as well, in addition to explicit authentication that we have with the help of SPF, DKM, and DMARC. So bulk filtering is available as a part of MD5. M365 service and MDO service will assign bulk rating for all the P1 domains that is sending email to you. For example, Salesforce will have a different BCL rating than, for example, some Tesco.com or some HCL.com. That differs, right? Based upon the way of communication, we will decide, and the kind of bulk commercial email that has been coming from the domain, we will decide a BCL value. And we also allow customers to customize the BCL value in their anti-spam policy. So by default value is 7, which means if your slider is saying 7, any email that gets a BCL rating of 7 and above will be classified as bulk. Maybe your organization may be frequently interacted with someone who is sending a lot of bulk legitimate email, and you're supposed to receive them, right? In such cases, you need to adjust your BCL threshold. For example, if you wanted to have more number of bulk commercial email, you need to move the slide towards right. For example, you need to move to from 7 to 8 or 8 to 9, so that you will get most of the bulk emails. Only if it is having a high value of bulk rating, only those will be quarantined. But if you're more concerned about receiving, if you're more concerned about your users being receiving a lot of bulk commercial emails from various bulk commercial sites, then you should move the slider towards left, like 4 or 5, so that what happens, anything that gets beyond 4 will get classified as bulk. So that is how the bulk filtering works.
Mithun, I have a question here. So, how
Yes.
does the concept of the high and lower value same with SEL as well, right? So, when it is a bulk email, if I move the threshold of that, how I coordinate for the value for the SEL. So is it? I know it is automatically stamped, but is there a way you can modify it as well?
Yes. So as you rightly said, SEL rating will be given by our filtering service. Similarly, bulk value is given by our filtering service. But when you go, you can manage the bulk value from the bulk threshold. Likewise, you don't have any slider for managing SEL. But if it is, for example, instead we have a spam and high confidence spam. For example, if we get an SEL 5, then it will be a spam. But if you get an SEL 9, you will get a high confidence spam. So based on that, you can decide the delivery action, whether it should go to quarantine or whether it should go to
Yeah.
junk. And another way is, you cannot you can use transport rule to stamp an SEL rating if you want, because in case for certain email, if you wanted to have a high SEL rating, you can, based upon certain conditions in a transport rule, you can frame your condition. If this condition is met, just mark this email with an SEL 9. You can do that as well, so that it will follow just a high confidence spam actions.
Okay.
Likewise, you
Thank
can manage SEL. Yeah, not with a slider.
you. Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and moving further, we have a mailbox intelligence and mailbox intelligence. All these four are impersonation: mailbox intelligence, impersonation, user impersonation, and domain impersonation. All this will be impersonation production, but with the various flavors. So when it comes to user impersonation, you could maintain a list of users, high-profile users like CEO, and you can manage them in your anti-phishing policy, so that what happen if anybody uh, trying to impersonate your CEO or CFO, those they will be considered as an impersonated users. So it is a kind of hard coding, right? You're hard coding certain users to give some additional protection, so that they'll give again extra protection if somebody is trying to resemble them. And domain impersonation is applicable for both your internal domain as well as external domain. There is an option to select internal domain. If you select an option, if you select that option, if it uses pattern algorithm, for example, your domain is a contaso.com, someone tries to resemble contaso.com, like they can change a minute, instead of contaso with the proper spelling, they can put a letters here and there, before and after. They could be try to resemble contaso.com. So we will use pattern algorithm to reject all those email if this is configured. And mailbox intelligence is something that I have discussed earlier. It has a sender recipient mapping, and based upon that intelligence, it will be clearly able to identify whether this person is already communicated, or whether any person which is similar to him is already communicated. If a similar person is already communicated and two-way communication is established already between them, then we will strongly suspect the other person who is resembling the previous person as a impersonation attack. Like this, we'll mark them as a impersonated user, and we will take appropriate action that you configure in your policies. And moving on to content filtering. So the content filtering will have transport rules, because we discussed a transport rule, right? How exactly it works. So that is how it works. You can do customization. And we have AV engines we discussed in the EOP section. So we have a Microsoft AV engines, with the help of which we will be able to classify list of known malicious attacks. And type blocking. Type blocking is a part of malware filter policies, which does use true file typing. Sometimes what happen, it could be a malicious exe content, but they would have renamed it, right? So our type blocking has the capability to understand the true file typing. Even if some file is renamed, we should be able to understand the original file as well as the renamed file, and we will action them. And those email will be still classified as malicious and move to quarantine if it is configured in your policies. And similarly, we have an attachment reputation blocking. So yes, if the reputation of the attachment is bad, yes, we have our MDO signals. Based on that, we will be blocking them. And there is a heuristic clustering. So when it comes to heuristic clustering, right? We have a file. We have a file, and based upon our heuristic reels, and at the time of delivery, we feel that it is malicious, right? If we know that, what exactly we do is, we would send those files to detonation, as I mentioned about sandbox environment and all those execution. As a result of that, if it found to be malicious, we will block the complete campaign, so that the complete campaign will be blocked with the similar clusters. And yeah, as we know, we have an ML models, and ML models differ from tenant to tenant. So ML models will learn all the communication that happens frequently, and it will look into the body content, as well as it will look into the headers. And it will see how exactly the wordings, or what exactly wordings that is frequently used in the content. With the help of it, it learns, and based on that, it will block the email with the help of the learning that it learns over the past. And tenant allow block list, as I said, it will help you to allow and block tenant to tackle false positive and false negative. That is available as a part of content filtering. And URL reputation blocking is similar to the file reputation blocking. If you found the URL reputation is bad based upon the previous detonation, so I'll give you an example here. So today you receive an email with an URL that gets delivered, but after that gets delivered, it might have weaponized by the attacker. When it gets weaponized, right, by the time you click the URL, we will do a time of click protection. During the time of click protection, we will send the URL to the detonation, and as a result of detonation, the verdict might have changed from good to bad. So when we does that, we will also let rest of the system know about that reputation. So the next time when the same URL comes, we don't need to detonate again because we already have the result. We will use that reputation. That is what we call as URL reputation blocking. That is available as a part of content filtering. And content heuristics is again in a content based rules. It will check the complete content, and based on that, we would be able to take a decision whether it is a good or bad. And safe attachment will does attachment scanning and detonate the attachment. And URL detonation again, which sell the URL for detonation. That is all come as a part of MDO and as a part of content filtering. So the last portion is the post delivery protection. So the post delivery protection is equally important because it is not always that every filter is 100% good enough in handling false positives and false negatives. There will be always false positives, false negatives. So we need some post delivery protection. One good thing is a zap, as I mentioned. It will retroactively scan the mailbox and see if something becomes malicious later. It will quarantine them. And similarly, the safe link, you could see something like here. It's a repetition between content filtering and post delivery protection. So we see safe links is common in both the places. You could see safe attachment is common in both the places, right? The reason is we will apply safe attachment and safe link scanning during the time of delivery of email and also after delivery. So whatever you see as a safe attachment and safe link under the content filtering, that is something that is happening during the time of delivery. Whatever you see under post delivery protection, that is happening after delivery as a part of time of click protection. The URL is delivered and you're clicking the URL. That time there is an additional protection. That is what we are seeing as a safe link protection under post delivery protection. And campaigns, if you go to campaigns, it will give you a clear picture about various campaigns that is happening across the service. So it uses as combined signals, anti-phishing, anti-spam, and anti-malware signals from various tenants and across the service, and with the help of which it will give you a clear chart. With the help of that, you could plan your investigation and um, respond capabilities. You can enhance your respond capabilities by creating some custom rules based on that, and you can hunt them and you can understand what is the type of campaign that is happening across the world. So you'll be able to know all those things. And end user reporting is equally important, right? To submit false positive and false negatives, you would be provided with the native reporting button, with the help of which if something escapes, you could either report as a false positive or false negative for Microsoft or your admin analysis. Yeah, as I said, right, MD also protect Office clients. That includes PowerPoint, Word, and Excel, and also it offers protection to OneDrive, SharePoint as well, right? Again, the URL detonation that we are seeing here as a post delivery protection is again the time of click protection. During the time of click, there is a detonation that will happen. That's it. So this completes the prevention part. And before we move on to detection, investigation, and response, any questions?
Yeah, Mithun. So thank you for letting us know the different types of filtering and how it can help us keep our environment protected. So you mentioned about the threat records like SPF, DKM, and DMARC, which all
Yeah.
of us will be familiar with. So how ARC differs from these records? Can you just help us understand on that piece?
Surely. So, so normally when an inbound email comes into your organization, we will do an SPF checkup, we will do an DKM checkup and DMARC checkup, and based on that, we will come to a conclusion to see if it is good or bad. But there are some complex scenarios where MX record is pointing to third party, and after third party, there could be another third party in worst case, and after that second third party, it could be Office 365. So in those scenarios, though we have an enhanced filtering for connectors, right, which will try to identify the original source IP, there could be a chance that during the transit, the DKM will be corrupted, right? For example, from internet, the email comes to third party, and third party did some modification. Let us say the third party adds a disclaimer, right? When somebody add a disclaimer, it is changing the body content. So when you alter a body content, the DKIM will be invalidated. So by the time we receive that email, even though it is a legitimate email, since because the third party has corrupted or invalidated the DKM signature by stamping a disclaimer, we should not be in a decision to uh, classify them as pass, authentication pass. Instead, sometimes, especially when P1 is not equal to P2, for example, especially when return path address domain is not equivalent to from domain, we would not be able to understand them as good. So ARC will come into those scenarios and it will preserve the authentication. For example, let us say if the third party which modifies the signature has the ARC protection, then what it does is before it does that stamping, so from internet the email is being received by third party, and third party before it does disclaimer addition, it will preserve the original authentication. So it will preserve the original authentication, then it does a detection, then it will pass on the original authentication results in the header. You would see an ARC authentication header in any of the email that you have received from outside the organization. That actually preserves this chain of custody, and it has clear information. And based upon that ARC information, if we configure the trusted ARC sealers in M365, then that will be allowed even if your DMARC or DKM is not helping you. So primarily, ARC will preserve the complete chain, complete authentication chain from top to end, from the beginning till the email get delivered. But for that, your third party should support ARC, and you should trusted the ARC that is stamped by your third party in your security portal. These are the two prerequisites to get this done.
Thanks, Mithun. Thanks for that.
Right. So moving on to detection. So detection is nothing but if somebody escapes, if malicious attacks or malicious threats that has been escaped from protection, and if it has been if it has been delivered, then we need to detect it, right? So the good example for detection is false positive submission. So an bad email gets delivered to user mailbox and user is reporting. So when user is reporting, the alerts will be generated, and it let the rest of the system knows that something has happened, and we need to that needs an admin intervention or Microsoft intervention. So it is simply alerting the rest of the system know that something has happened and intervention is needed. Alert. And second example is alert. For example, I said, right, the URL was good during the time of delivery, but after the URL is getting delivered, it becomes weaponized by the attacker. Then by the time user clicks that URL, then we will do a time of click protection. By that way, we are able to detect that there is an email that gets delivered with a bad URL. So that triggered an alert, right? So that the rest of the system, like an automation, everything knows that it has some work to do. Right? That is pretty much about detected. And also, yeah, a few examples are alert, safe link, and safe attachment, time of click protections, and also the custom rules, as I said. So using advanced advanced hunting and custom detection rules, you might have some rules that might have detected something which may not be figured out by the system. So those all these things will come under detection capabilities, which will ideally help further the admins to investigate the malicious attack that happened. So the investigation. So when it comes to investigation, there are two types of investigation. One is an automated investigation that comes as a part of MDO P2. The other one is a manual investigation, right? So we have plenty of tools like Threat Explorer. If you go to security.microsoft.com and email collaboration on the left, you would be able to see a Threat Explorer with the help of which you would be able to search what do you need and you can hunt them. And you have advanced hunting. You can put an advanced hunting query and you can pull some of the malicious activity that has happened, and you would be able to hard delete or soft delete or move to quarantine. You can take an investigate. You can take an action, and you have an email entity page as I mentioned above. The email entity page is having a detailed analysis of the complete identities that is present in the email. So you could analyze everything, every entities that is a part of email with email entity tabs. So these are all some of the investigation tools. And when it comes to automated investigation, so as I said, we have AIR, that is called automated investigation and response. What exactly it does is it initially alerts will be triggered. That alert will be triggered an investigation automatically. That investigation will run the playbook and it will does all the investigation, and it provides you some recommended steps for admin to action it. For example, I received an email with a URL which is malicious. I, as an end user, I report as an end user, as an or as an admin, I reported that as a false negative fish. Then what exactly does is, when if it is an MDO, then it will trigger an alert, and the alert will trigger an automated investigation and response if you are an MDO P2. That will analyze everything on behalf of you, and it will give you an action like a hot delete or report or quarantine, etc. So that can be automated as well. So currently, with the latest improvements in the service, either you can automate even the recommendation that is given by investigation. Either you can manually approve it, whatever what if you want a manual intervention for the recommendation given, you can manually go ahead and approve it. If in case if you strongly feel that I don't have a time to do or remediate this, I want my AIR to automate the remediation as well. That is possible. What you need to do is you need to go to security.microsoft.com. There is an MDO automation settings. In that automation settings, if you could select the file clusters or URL clusters that need to be automatically remediated if it is given a verdict as malicious because of automated investigation and response, yes, that can be automated as well. So these are the kind of investigation tools that is available for you to investigate the threat attack that happened in your organization, right? And response, these are all some of the response tools. So you have initially prevented, so whichever is escaping from prevention, that has been alerted and investigated. So now after being alerted and investigated, you have some of this tool to respond to threats. One is AIR, as we discussed again. AIR will do investigation as well as response as well. It will do an investigation, and investigation proves the particular thing as a malicious entity or threat, then it provides you a remediation that can be automated or you can be manually approved. That is one type of response tool. And second thing is Zap. Zap is a part of both EOP as well as MDO. So as I said, it retroactively go back to your mailbox and it check things. And if it finds malicious, it is quarantining, which means it is actioning, it is responding. That is one form of responding tool. And the TABL is a other way of sometimes what happen, even if you submit an email as a false positive and false negative, it takes some time for system to learn, right? So but you cannot wait, right? Because there could be plenty of attacks that could happen in the meantime. So if you want to put a block, temporary block or temporary allow, for example, temporary block for false negative, or if you want a temporary allow for false, so if you want a temporary block for false negatives, or if you want a temporary allow for false positives, then you could directly do that either while you are doing a submission, because this TABL is integrated with the submission tool. If you put a check mark, automatically it will add the appropriate entity into the block list or allow list. That is one way of doing it. The second way of doing it, you could go ahead to the tenant or block list portal manually, and you can add allow list or block list for the appropriate entities, so that you're temporarily mitigated at least until the system learns that particular false positive and false negatives. Then submission is kind of a responding tool because you're submitting it, and in turn Microsoft or your admin is going to respond to you, right? It is one type of responding tool. Either you will get an updated verdict, as I was discussing with Gokul. Sometimes you may be Microsoft may be accepting your verdict, and it will provide you the rescan verdict. By that way, you're getting a response stating that my analysis is completed and my false positive submission is successfully completed as a false positive submission. Sometimes you will get an same verdict, because if Microsoft graders does not agree with whatever you suspect, then you will get a same result. But anyway, you are being responded. That is one way. And while doing submission, sometimes admin have a capability to mark and notify end users as well. So either way, you are responding to your end users either via admins or via Microsoft. So it is one kind of responding tool. And manual remediation, right? Manual remediation is anytime using manual remediation, you can remediate and respond to any threat that happen in your organization with the help of tools like Threat Explorer or Advanced Hunting or Email Entity, or a manual investigation that you're manually creating for some alert that has been triggered in your organization. So all this will come under responding to, right? So that is pretty much. So so the final couple of slides is so we talked about four pillars, right? Which is very important: prevention, detection, investigation, and response. Above all, right? So when exactly things become a problem? As long as user is intelligent, right? As long as user is aware of multiple things, and if the user is hesitant to interact to certain attacks or certain abnormality or abnormal emails, then things will be in safe. So it is equally important to train end users with the help of attack simulation training, so that when system is doing its service, the end users knowledge gets increased, and end users know when to respond, for what to respond, and when not to respond to a particular threat. So with the help of advanced attack simulation training that is available as a part of MDO P2 license, you can send how to guides to your end users, with the help of which you can educate them how to report false positive, false negative, and you can educate them how exactly the current QR campaign is happening in the organization, how exactly you need to react to certain email which is coming with some resemblance to users that is already existing in your organization, etc. And also with the help of attack simulation training, you can use some of the existing template that we have framed, inbuilt template that is available. We have framed all the inbuilt templates based upon the recent campaign that is happening across. Based on that information, we are providing you a lot of simulation templates. You could use those simulation templates, and you could send those simulation to set of users or all users in the organization, and to understand, how many of them are reacting to threats, right? By that way, when your attack simulation reports comes into picture, you will come to know, yes, 25 users have reacted properly. They clearly identified this email as a phishing email. But still there are 25 users where they are not able to identify this as a phishing attack, and they are responding it in a wrong way. They are clicking a link, they are entering the password, they are entering the credentials. By that way, you can pull out those list of users, and you can plan separate training for them, so that next time they'll be aware of how exactly they have to react to a particular threat. So these are all some of the advantages of using attack simulation training, to understand the mentality of your end user in the organization and to train them. All right. And right. So before we wind up, right, there is MDO also started its coverage to protecting the links that got generated by M365 Copilot chats, right? So likewise, how we are using Teams and email communication, equally we are all using Copilot, right? AI Copilot chats. So MDO primarily protects M365 Copilot chat and Office apps, and this is globally available. This feature is globally available now. So we are offering two types of protection. If your customer is MDO, and if he is interacting with M365 Copilot chat in any of the clients, like it could be a Teams mobile, or it could be Outlook mobile, or it could be a Copilot chat on desktop web, or it could be Copilot mobile app with respect to iOS and Android. This protection is applied everywhere. So when you are querying Copilot, and if it provides some information, and if it has some links, so before when the user clicks on that link, we will click the same time of click protection. It will go to sandbox, and when sandbox is done, it will be either classified as good or bad. So if it is classified as bad, you could see the first screenshot on the slide. You will get that experience. In case if it is good, it will allow the click through, and you would be able to see the particular page when you have an MDO. Suppose if your tenant is not MDO, it is just an EOP, then even then we are giving the URL reputation check. So what exactly it does is, in that case, it will not be able to provide your time of click protection, which means when you do a time of click protection, the URL will be detonated and the URL detonation will happen. But here, only URL reputation checks will happen. So which means if that URL is already known to be a bad URL, and we will use the MDO signals to classify them as bad, and you will get the second image, as you can see in the second screenshot, stating that it is a security risk if you proceed with this URL. That is the only difference if you have an MDO license or if you have EOP license. But either way, you will get URL reputation check, at least if you have an EOP license. And with this change, we no longer redact the hyperlinks, right? Because we have a protection, we don't need to redact the hyperlinks. Instead, we have giving a protection. Right. Yeah. Before we wind up, these are all some of the list of public documents that we have, which primarily helps you to understand whatever we discussed so far. So, if you wanted to practice whatever we discussed, and if you wanted to know how to create policies and where exactly you need to navigate in security.microsoft.com to create appropriate policies, like a preset security policies or custom policies, these articles will guide you with that. And also, if you wanted to practice and test some investigation and response capabilities, yes, you could make use of this. And also, if you would like to send some advanced attack simulation training, if you wanted to test it, You could make use of this article, which will primarily give you the prerequisite that is needed for an admin account to do attack simulation training, and also it will give you the list of training modules that is available, and how exactly you can make use of it from the custom library to educate or to alert your end users or to train your end users, etc. So that is pretty much.
Thanks for
I,
unpacking that so well, Mithun. This has been truly insightful conversation, right? And it's evident how much thought goes into Microsoft's email defense strategy. We got one interesting question. I think we'll take it as a last question before we end the podcast.
sure.
Looks like a more of a practical question, right? Which most of the organizations used to face. So many organizations today have some third-party security solutions or appliances in their email routing architecture, right? So in such setups, we often hear about the need for enhanced filtering, and you also touched base on that in your deck earlier. Could you help us understand where enhanced filtering becomes necessary, and what exactly happens behind the scenes so that people can understand and relate to it?
Sure, Ram. Let me explain this in a different way, right? Not just enhanced filtering. So, what additional steps you need to know when you have complex mail routing? So, when your MX record is pointing to third party, right? That is when enhanced filtering is needed in your connectors, so that you should be able to look back the original source, and you can validate the original source IP, and you can validate that particular email with respect to email authentication. But in addition to this, we would also recommend the customers with complex mail routing or dual routing scenario customers to lock down their exchange online to avoid email being directly sent to M365 MX records, right? In the last month, you know about a lot of direct send attacks that has happened, and where attackers have utilized their applications to directly send email, bypassing your third-party service. Let us say it is a Mimecast, a Proofpoint, whatever. So they can bypass the that particular where your MX record is pointing to. Instead, they use the M365 Smart Host to connect with us directly. So to eradicate those scenarios, in addition to enhanced filtering for connectors, which we discussed, it is always recommended to lock down your exchange with the help of the same inbound connector. To lock down, we need to set this parameter called restrict domain to IP address or restrict domain to certificate. That should be set to true. In If that is the case, if that is set to true, your connector will always accept email only if it is coming from your third party, because you're locking down your exchange to accept email only from your third party, not from anybody else. So that is an additional configuration that is needed in a complex routing scenarios to avoid any direct send exploitation and attacks. So that is one thing, and in addition to enhanced filtering and locking down exchange, one other thing that I would like to say, again, I am reiterating the fact, if your third party is supporting arc, that is well and good, because you would reduce a lot of false positive, because as I said, the arc will preserve the chain of custody, the authentication results from beginning till the end. So even if DKM is invalidated in between, right, even if P1 and P2 is not same domain, then with the help of orc, we would be able to clearly identify that it is legitimate email as per the orc signature, though the DKM signature is invalidated. So these are all some of the best practices for someone who utilize third party in front of EOP, in addition to enhanced filtering.
Yeah,
Hope that answers your question.
yeah. Thanks for that. I think it clarified that. Thank you.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Mithun, for taking the time to share your insights and help professionals better protect their email systems. So we truly appreciate your contribution, and we know that this is just the beginning, and you will continue to support the community in securing even more platforms. So talk to you soon, and have a great rest of the evening. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you, three of you, for this opportunity. It is indeed a great session um, for me to present in front of public. So thanks for the opportunity. Looking
Thanks.
forward to connect with you again. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.